Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. So first of all, this is going to be a completely raw and unedited video. We've been having a really hard time with our internet, and my editing program is based on the internet, so I can't edit anything, but I wanted to get a video up because I actually missed this past Wednesday as well. So I wanted to get a video up today. I'm a little bit nervous about this because I've never shot anything that's completely raw, so a little bit nervous, and so hopefully you guys still enjoy it. The other thing is I'm not wearing any of my usual getup, so no makeup, no fancy dresses or anything like that. So that's for two reasons. So the first one is that if you follow me over on Instagram, you'll know that I'm trying to work on the whole self-love thing and trying to accept myself as I am, both with makeup and without makeup. So as you guys know, I do battle mental illness and I am bipolar. So of course I see a counselor regularly, and she kind of made a comment that sort of stuck in my head, and I think it's absolutely true, that it almost seems like when I see people or when I'm on video or whatever, even if it's going to work, being on video chat with my colleagues, whatever the case is, it's almost like I have to wear a mask. I have to kind of hide myself a little bit, and I think as women we kind of all need to do a little bit of self-acceptance. So no makeup, really nervous about that as well, so hopefully you guys still enjoy the video. And also my skin is really acting up right now. I'm really broken out, which is something that doesn't happen very often. I don't know if it's stress or something I ate, but I didn't want to plaster makeup all over my face when my skin is so broken out, so that's the other reason. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a wrap up. So I haven't had a chance to do wrap ups for June or July, and I'm not really sure what the reasoning behind that is. The only thing I can think is that I've been kind of slumpy this summer, and I didn't read all of the books that I wanted to read in June and July, but when I started jotting them down, I'm like, you know, I still read a fair amount. So let's wrap up June and July. Getting into August, you guys know that I'm in spooky season. I have some decorations on the shelves now, and really excited for all of this heat and hot sticky weather and all of the fires and the smoke and everything to be gone. So let's wrap up summer and we can start getting into spooky season. So the first books that I read were a couple of Goosebumps, and I really enjoyed my time with these. So we have Welcome to Camp Nightmare, we have Ghost Beach, and we have The Horror at Camp Jelly Jam. And I really enjoyed all of these, but my two favorites were Welcome to Camp Nightmare, because this one they did way back in like 1995 when they did the show. This was one of my favorite episodes. It was one of those ones I was really sucked into the episode, and I was totally blown away at the end. I mean, you can't figure out the ending. If you know this book, you know you can't figure out the ending. So really enjoyed that one. But my absolute favorite was The Horror at Camp Jelly Jam. And sorry, that's my air conditioning in the background, so sorry, you guys are just gonna have to deal with it for this video. So this one, I loved this book. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. The other ones I gave 3.5. This one I had to give it a little bit of a higher rating. It was such an imaginative idea about these kids that are stuck at this weird summer camp that they just happen to stumble across, and there's this creature or this guy that's King Jelly Jam, and so the adventure and the spookiness and kind of the weirdness of what's going on was really interesting. And then right at the end, when you meet King Jelly Jam, he's completely gross, and it's got all of the, you know, ooey gooey stuff that kids are gonna love. So if you want to read something before summer's end and you're looking for a little quick read, this one is really cool. And then next, I read a couple of Babysitter's Club. So I have two of the summertime super specials, And as I've mentioned on the channel before, I used to read these a lot when I was growing up. I read the entire series, The Babysitter's Little Sister and then The Babysitter's Club. But these ones in particular, I remember reading in the summer because my parents would go up to their cabin, and I was, for the most part, pretty much the only kid in that area, and so I spent a lot of time reading. So we have Babysitters at Shadow Lake, and then we have Babysitter's Summer Vacation. And I recently watched the Netflix series of the Babysitter's Club as well, and I really enjoyed it, and they had an episode that had to do with this, and so I really enjoyed this book. This was, you know, to me it had all of the summer feels of going to a summer camp and somebody has poison ivy and there's drama because there's girls fighting and summer romance and the whole thing. So this one was really good. I gave this one 4 stars. And then this other one, the Shadow Lake one, this is number 8, and the other one is super special number 2. This is number 8, so this one takes place a little bit later. And what I found with this one, I really enjoyed it, but it just seemed to have so much going on and so many characters and so many storylines. So you have the core Babysitters Club group, but then you have like new members that were added over the years, and then it's their siblings and they have their parents, and like there was just way too much going on. Still really enjoyed it. It was a cute read, but definitely like the other one a little bit better. You know, doing these videos really dries out your throat. Does anybody else find that like once they're done, their throat is really dry? So I also read this book, Take Your Turn Teddy by Haley Newland. And like I've said before on the channel, this is one that I got sent directly from the author, which was very kind of her, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a very high rating. I think it was either 4 or 4.5 stars. I do have a full review of this book on the channel, so that's all I'll say about it for now, but you can find the review that's linked down below. I also read Campfire by Sarlis. There's another review on the channel, so again, I'll have that link down below for you guys. I really did not like this book. I think I gave it 2 stars, and even thinking back on that, I don't even know if I would have given it 2 stars. So, and here's the thing. I had a couple of people that commented on that video, and they were like, I read this book and it was totally fine. And that's cool. You know, reading is subjective. I always say it. Every booktuber says it. We're all gonna have different opinions, but for me, the writing was poor, the storyline was poor. You know, I just really didn't like this one, which is unfortunate because, for one, it has a super cool cover. The eyes are kind of spot varnish, so they kind of glow, and that is very cool. And of course it says James Patterson on it, and he's like, you know, really big blockbuster. Didn't live up to expectations, and actually after I finished this book, I went into that summer reading slump. I was just kind of done with it all. So this one, I read Broken Circle, The Dark Legacy of Indian Residential Schools, a memoir by Theodore Fontaine. So I got this one secondhand at the bookstore that I always go to, and like I said on the channel a little while ago, I wanted to incorporate some reading that had to do with Indigenous culture and with Indigenous life experience that included the legacy of residential schools. And I am still going to continue with that, but right now, with everything going on in the news, as I said, you know, there's been several now mass burial sites of unmarked graves of Indigenous children that were in these schools. And as a privileged white girl, like, I know already that the legacy of residential schools is bad. It's not a good situation. You know, you hear horror stories, and I've heard several interviews from survivors that went to these schools, but actually reading a memoir like this that was very raw, it was really hard. Super hard read. But what I liked about this book was he kind of had a juxtaposition between what was going on in the schools, and then when he would go home to visit his parents, or before he went to the school, and he would talk about waking up in the morning and the smell of his mother's bannock baking on the stove. And bannock is very big here in Canada. We used to make it in Girl Guides and stuff like that. And so I really liked that because it kind of took you out of the horror that this man was experiencing when he was at school, and kind of talked about his family and powwows and, you know, traditions and stuff like that. So I really liked that aspect. So 3.5 stars for this one. Next up we have a Fear Street. This is Super Chiller, The Dead Lifeguard. And this book was super nostalgic for me because I was a lifeguard, I believe, for about 10 years. And I loved working as a lifeguard during the summertime, especially in the outdoor pools. And it has such a different kind of feel than working in the indoor pools. So this was super nostalgic. And, you know, it has, again, all of the summer romances, and it has a mystery, and it has getting sunburns, and, you know, just the whole experience of summertime and being a lifeguard. The difference with this one that I didn't have is that these lifeguards kind of boarded together while they were working, so they were in cabins. So I didn't like, I didn't have that experience, but I really liked it in the book. And the mystery that's kind of running through this story, I thought was really good. I think this is probably one of my more favorite Fear Street rereads that I've done so far. I've only read a couple, but this one I think is probably the best one that I've had. And going forward with Fear Street, I think what I'm going to do is, because some of the storylines and some of the characters overlap in this series, instead of just going on the shelf and just picking out one to read, I think I'm going to go back and start at the very beginning and read them in publication order. So I'm not going to reread this one when I get to it again, but, you know, I am going to go back and start right at book number 1 and read them right through. So this one was really good. Like I said, I gave this one 3.75 stars. And then I think this is the last physical book that I have. I'll check my list, but it's called The Ghost Road by Karis Cotter. And as I've mentioned on the channel before, we've read a couple of her books also this year, and she is a Canadian author. She grew up in Toronto. She's from Toronto, but she spent the past several years in my home province of Newfoundland, and she fell in love with the life experience on the island, and she's also very into storytelling and the traditions of storytelling, and ghost stories especially. She loves ghost stories. So this was such a cozy little adventure. So this is a middle grade, and like I said, it takes place on the island, and the adventure in this story I thought was so good. It was so imaginative. I don't want to go too much into it, but there's these two girls that are cousins, and they find out that basically there's a curse in their family, and they're spending the summer with their aunt, who lives in a very small outport community on the island. And one of the girls is from Toronto, so kind of the shock, the culture shock of her coming from Toronto and going into Newfoundland, and she doesn't realize that you need to have wool sweaters and galoshes and raincoats and the whole thing. She goes packed with like summer dresses and all of that, and when she gets there she's freezing cold and she needs to put on wool sweaters and the socks and the whole thing, and her aunt, all she does is bake, and she's just stuffing the food into these girls' faces. And that is very much like what an aunt or a nan or a nanny would be like on the island. They just cook and bake, and they just stuff you full of food all the time. But getting back to the story, the adventure is really good. I was totally sucked into it. I thought it was really well done, and the girls are trying to kind of trace their family tree back to Ireland, and like I said, there's kind of a curse that's wound in there, and they're trying to figure out, and they start uncovering all of these secrets. It's really good. The only thing is that the writing, of course, is a little bit juvenile and kind of can be repetitive a little tiny bit. And I mean, obviously it's a middle grade book, so the reading level is a little bit lower than obviously what you would be at as an adult, but really enjoyed this. So 4 stars for this one. And there's another book coming out from this author this month, actually on August the 31st. She's releasing a book that's called The Dollhouse, and I want to pick that one up as well, and I'm hoping it's going to be just as good as this one. Okay, let's check our list here. Yeah, so that's all of the physical books that I read. And then for my ebooks, I usually put the covers up here, but this is a raw video, no editing abilities, so I'm just gonna go through them. So the first one was Charlotte Says, and that is the prequel to Frozen Charlotte. And it's by Alex Bell. And I enjoyed this one just as much as I enjoyed Frozen Charlotte. And I was completely sucked in. It's really gruesome in spots. It's like, you know, you got like dolls that are maiming little girls, and it's crazy. So I think I liked Frozen Charlotte a little bit better, but this one was really, really good. And I've told a couple of people, I'm like, whatever you're reading, drop it and go read the Frozen Charlotte series. I love this series, and I'm really hoping that either they're gonna make it into a movie, because let's be honest, and I'm sorry if you're liking all of these remakes that are going on in Hollywood, there's way too many goddamn remakes going on. Like, go read a book and get a new story and do a new movie. So rant over, but Frozen Charlotte and Charlotte Says are two of my favorite books. So 5 stars for both. The next one I read was Kill River by Cameron Robique, and I really liked this book. I gave it 3.5 stars. The only thing that I found was that once the kids got into the abandoned amusement park, it really slowed down. It almost came to a complete stop with like what the adventure was actually doing and stuff like that. So totally being honest there, still really enjoyed it. I'm gonna recommend still picking it up, but I did find it got really, really slow once the kids got into the amusement park. So I'm sure I'm gonna read the rest of the series, and I was gonna read them this summer, but I'm just gonna put them aside for now. But the first Kill River, like I said, still pretty good, and 3.5 stars for that one, and you know, still pick it up if you're looking for it. So next we have, oh, Fat Camp. Fat Camp by James Sabata, and I also did a full review of this one on the channel as well, so I'll leave that link down below. Gave this book, I believe, 4.5 stars, and I was so surprised at how much I liked this book. It was so, so, so good. And this is another one I think that's a little bit underrated, and if you're looking for something, especially if you're looking for like a summertime horror, but even if it's not summer, it's still an amazing adventure. I really, really, really enjoyed this book, and it's very much kind of a, what do you want to say, like a combo between like a slasher novel and a coming of age, and I really liked both of those. So again, if you want to hear more thoughts, I'll leave the link down below for my review on this book. And then the last book that I read was Dead Daughters by Tim Meyer. And again, I also did a full review of this one, so I'll leave that one linked down below as well. But really enjoyed this book also. It kind of came out of nowhere, like the ending and what was going on, and you know, you're like, oh, it's this person, it's that person, and then the ending kind of blows your mind a little bit. I thought it was well written. I thought it was compelling. I thought the idea behind it was really, really good. There was one aspect of the book that I was like, it kind of left it as an open ending, and I understand why the author did it, and I say this in the review as well. Totally understand why he did it. But I'm just kind of left a little bit feeling like, okay, I don't know really what happened there. I'd really like to know what was going on with that situation. But it didn't deter me from the book at all. It was really, really good, and I will definitely look out for more books that are written by Tim Meyer in the future. So I think that's it. I think I covered everything that I read in June and July. So hopefully this video turns out okay. Like I said, totally raw. No editing, no makeup, nothing. So there you go. But we're here to talk about the books. Who cares what I look like, right? So I'm going to try to do a few of these more relaxed videos too, because I find that if I don't think it's going to be perfect, like my makeup is not good, I'm not wearing the right stuff, I don't have like a script or like notes written or whatever, then I'd rather not film and not put out something. And I want to try to kind of move away from that, if you know what I mean. You know, let's just talk about the books. That's what's important here. So that's everything I have for you guys today. If you like the video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. Leave me a question or a comment down below, because you know I love chatting with you guys. But until next time, stay spooky, everybody.